salawat. My dearest elders, brothers, and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Muhammad Abbas Ali, and I am so honored to be the MC of tonight's event, along with my sister Fatima. We welcome each and every one of you to this joyous celebration of Eid-ul-Adha and Eid-ul-Ghadeer.
Thank you, Muhammad Abbas. Before we start this program, I would like to emphasize the importance of Eid-ul-Ghadeer. It is the foundation of our belief as followers of the Ahlul Bayt and is the precursor to the Shia Aqidah, hence a very important Eid in our faith. I would now like to call upon Hora Fatima to enlighten this gathering with the beautiful recitation of the Holy Quran.
Let's recite a loud salawat as she makes her way onto the stage. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها كذبت ثمود بطواها إذ انبعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها وكذبوه فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها ولا يخاف عقباها صدق الله العلي العظيم.
MashaAllah, what an amazing recitation, Hora Fatima. Thank you for blessing us with your lovely voice.
Now we will be moving on to the youth talk show with Sayyid, which will discuss the intellectual definition of leadership in the eyes and perspective of the youth.
We would also like to add that there are mics on both the ladies' and men's side for anyone who has questions or thoughts. We would encourage everyone to chime in. Please let's use the loudest of our voices to welcome Sayyid Hassan Rizvi and his team with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وجل فرجهم. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. Mu'mineen, mu'minat, brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, looks a little bit more hijabi in this hall right now. I'm not used to this. So, first, I want to thank the organizers for this wonderful program and for coming together and having something that's, out of the box that we're not used to, but it's something that's really important and relevant. Also, I want to thank both Mehdi Jaffer and Zaman Sheikh for agreeing to be participants and panelists and sharing their thoughts. So let's get right to it. So I'm just going to toss out the question, and as the MCs had told you, there's a mic on this side and on the men's side as well. Anytime you have any questions or comments, feel free to chime in. So, first question, you guys ready? Yeah. When you think of a great leader, who comes to your mind and why? Now, it can be anyone that's a leader, religious, political, social, communal, whatever.
When I think of a leader, well, there are many leaders I could have said, but I think it's a cliche answer. However, I think Imam Husseini is a great leader because of his vision. If you're living during his time, who could have thought that sacrificing your life would be a good option? However, now years and years later, here we are. We have the true Islam. So I think I would say him. He would be a great leader. Also, I would say my father, because my father, of course, he has an impact on me, but he teaches me a lot of things I know today. So yeah, those two, Imam Hussein and my father.
My opinion of a great leader would be someone who embodies influence, like Martin Luther King Jr. He was able to have such great influence from a jail cell. He wrote a letter from Birmingham jail to the clergyman and was able to influence and rally African Americans to be able to protest and fight for their rights. So that's what I would say that is a very influential leader.
So it's interesting, right? So both of you have given answers of people who are very kind of globally recognized. For Imam Hussein, obviously, more so for Muslims, specifically Shias, and that impact that he had was long-lasting, right? And then you have the same thing for Martin Luther King and the likes, where their impact, their names are known throughout, and that impact is still lasting to this day. And it's interesting, too, that you mentioned, your father, because sometimes the local leaders, we don't end up, recognizing people like that, people like teachers and things like that, who really do sometimes have more of an impactful effect on our lives than even some of these big global names. So it's really interesting. Is there a reason, if I could ask you, Zaman, why you didn't jump to a quote-unquote religious, like imam or something right away?
Well, of course, like our imams are the greatest leaders. There are examples. They are the best examples, right? But we also have to take into account there's also leaders that have flaws, because we know our imams don't have flaws. So a leader doesn't have to be someone who is flawless or ma'soom. You can be a leader in your own community. As Mahdi mentioned, his father is a great leader towards him. So I wanted to shed light on the fact that you don't really have to be flawless to be a leader. Leaders make mistakes as well.
That's a good point. Thank you. Okay. So now let's shift over specifically to youth, because you guys gave your own opinion, and you talked about, those answers anybody would agree with, I think, right, generally speaking. But you guys are youth, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So since the theme is about youth, what would you say would actually make a good leader in the eyes of youth? Like, are there specific criteria that youth are looking for when choosing a leader? And you can talk about it from any perspective, right? Social, political, communal, religious, like we said before. But now, target a bit more about what youth, I guess, need and what they're looking for, right? So I guess you can, whoever wants to start.
So of course, I only can speak for myself. However, I mentioned earlier vision, but I would also say that a leader or an individual should be able to manage a conflict, whatever that conflict may be, small, big, whatever. Second, I think the leader should set an example. He should be an example, his behavior, his manners, etc. And I think the last one would probably be that you could put the individual in any situation and they would be able to navigate their way through the situation. So I think if a leader has those four qualities, they would be a pretty good leader, I think.
So if I can push back on that a little bit. So that would be the same thing for a leader for adults or for anybody, right? So what's different for a youth leader or somebody that's leading youth that would make them different than a general leader, right?
Well, I think for youth, perhaps if the individual has to be relatable to the youth, then they can sort of make a connection and they would actually follow what the leader says instead of just accepting the leader. So I think, the leader has to be relatable so the youth can make a connection to the leader and, of course, follow what the leader says or, follow what the leader says.
Okay.
Yeah, I totally agree with Mahdi's last point there. Relatability is a key factor in engaging the youth. For example, Joe Biden, what he did was he brought in this singer, Olivia Rodrigo, to advertise vaccines, and it actually made the youth more aware of youth vaccines. Like people under 18 can now get a vaccine, and it kind of Joe Biden used that relatability in order to bring attention to his agenda. And I think also in our community, if I see someone who I've grown up with, and they are now taking a leadership position, I am more likely to be able to talk with them about my problems and issues and bring them up in the community so they can be solved.
Do you guys think that that's actually a good criteria to have? Like, because I get this a lot when Q&A happens, and it used to happen back in the day where people would. I'll give you one example. So somebody I know, we were talking about the rules for fasting, right? And she's like, I get tired. I'm working in an office, and it gets really tiring for me. I have to do a lot of mentally, stressful work. So he's like, what's the big deal? Why can't I have a sip of water once in a while, right? Or it's a little snack, nothing crazy, not a meal, just a little bit, just to keep me going. So I gave him the answer. I said, look, unless you're dying or unless it's really, really difficult, then no, you can't do that. Even if you have a little bit of water, you're going to have to make it up later on anyway, right? So he's like, you know what? He's like, the problem is that you Mulanas, you speakers, whatever, you guys don't understand. You've never worked in a corporate office before, so you don't know what it's like. I mean, my response was that, look, the people who are living in like 100-degree plus weather, who are in construction work, they're able to do fasting, whatever, but you're sitting in some nice Morgan Stanley building at like, nice, 60-degree AC, and you're complaining that you can't have a little water. So is that relatability really a good factor? Like, just because I didn't do the exact same thing or I didn't grow up the exact same way, should that be a reason for youth to say, look, maybe we would go or wouldn't go with or listen to, this individual? Because are the imams really relatable in that sense?
That's a very good point. I mean, I see a
I
lot
know. That's a good point. And again, anybody who has any questions or comments, please chime in.
I see a lot of youth today. They're kind of disconnected from the ulama and the ayatollahs that are in Iran and Iraq. They're like, they don't live in the West. We should have ulama in the West. They can't relate to us. But there's also a factor that they have a lot of knowledge and stuff. Now, of course, relatability is going to engage the youth more, but that doesn't mean that, I didn't say that they were making them better leaders per se. It just means that it would attract more of that community.
Okay, because let's go back to the original question. It's like, what makes a good leader in the eyes of today's youth? So it might help them in terms of the attraction, which is understandable, right? To help engage, yeah, okay. But is that really something that makes a good leader, right? So it seems like what you're saying, it doesn't make you a good leader, but maybe it's a helpful quality to actually get people there if you do possess the real good qualities then. Do you think that's fair?
I think that's a fair point to make,
okay.
yeah.
What do you think, Matthew?
Yeah, I would agree with that, yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Anybody? Comments, questions, suggestions, criticisms, complaints? Nothing, huh? Okay, let's keep going then. I think we're doing good. Okay. Now, if each of you can name one of the imams, or I guess any of the prophets if you want to as well, but specifically let's focus on the 12 imams. Any of their specific types of leadership that have impacted you in your life today. Now, I know, Matthew, you did mention Imam Hussein before, but if you're going to stick with that answer, can you try to give me one specific thing from like Imam Hussein or any of the imams that, look, this imam did this, and this is how it affected me in my life, right? So an actual like practical way that it affected you.
Well, I would put light onto the fact that we always, when we're thinking of leadership within imamat or prophethood, we usually think towards the battles. We think towards Battle of Khandaq, Battle of Uhud, Battle of Badr, and how our imams and our prophets, they fought valiantly and they were able to lead their troops. But like, it doesn't always have to be a physical leadership that is what inspires people. For me, something that really affected me was Imam Hassan's treaty with Muawiyah. It just goes to show that sometimes, even if the other side is wrong, compromise is available. It was his last resort. He made a compromise, and in the end, Allah revealed Muawiyah's faults. So that goes to show two things I learned from that is that we should always compromise, and two, Allah's plan is always the highest, and we should always trust in His plan.
Interesting. So what you've taken from the leadership of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, although his main sort of go-to plan was to go to war, to get rid of Muawiyah, and to try to stop those who were clearly wrong. When it didn't work out, when he didn't have the support, he found a solution that both helped out, although it looked rough in the short term. In the long term, obviously, in the full scheme of things, we see that sort of wisdom and leadership led to the downfall of people like Muawiyah and his followers. Hassan.
So for me, I think Imam Ali is actually a very good example. He was an actual leader in terms of a government. However, when he was going to be the leader, I think it's important to note that he did not want to at first be the leader, as I recall, but instead he saw that him taking the role was for the better of the people, and so he took up the role. He had nothing to gain from it, nothing to get from it. However, I suppose you could say he took one for the team and took up the role. So I think I can relate that in my life, that I can do things and I can perform actions that are not necessarily beneficial for me. However, if I do that, it would help other people. Just like the way Imam Ali took up the role when he had nothing to gain, as I mentioned.
Oh, that's an interesting point as well. And I think sometimes that happens because let's be clear, all communities, they're always in need of volunteers or people to step forward and engage in certain things. And alhamdulillah, our communities are pretty good at that. We do have a lot of volunteers for this event, for all types of events, for Thursday night programs, whatever it is. But there are certain, let's say, roles that require a bit more, right? A lot more effort, a lot more time, a lot more maybe stress or mental anguish, whatever it is. And sometimes people start weighing things out like, really, what's in it for me? Am I really going to go through it or not? I think the example of Imam Ali saying as well that, he did not want to lead. He did not want to lead the people. He knew that, in a sense, it was sort of thankless, right? Yes, it was his right to do so. But at the same time, there's all these other factors pushing him otherwise. But when he saw that, look, the people really are in need, and they're pushing me, that they need this, then he kind of came forward and took that role of khilafah. So yeah, I think that's good that it kind of acts as a reminder for all of us, maybe even me too, where sometimes I might get tired of giving speeches and things like that, but maybe the people need it and I have to keep coming every Thursday night and every Wilada, every Shahada, or every Eid Gala event and do a talk show. Something like that. I guess, so there's no comments on the men's side as well, I'm assuming, right? Because I haven't heard anything yet. If there are, whoever's volunteering there, just, I guess, go on, we'll hear your voice, like an angel or whatever, and then we'll stop. Yeah. Don't say like that. Okay. So I think these next ones are a little tough. Yeah, but I think they're the most important, but they're very tough. How is the 12th Imam's presence in your life today? Do you even think that he's present in your life today? Do you perceive his, the Imam of the time, in the ghaiba? Do you actually perceive and feel his leadership? If you do, then how is that the case? And then particularly for youth, is there some sort of leadership that we see with the 12th Imam? What do you guys think?
If I'm being honest here, no, I'm not really always thinking, this is what I need to do for the Imam and that kind of stuff. It's easy to give that cookie cutter answer that, I'm thinking of the Imam at all times and I'm always feeling his presence, but honestly, I really am not. And that's something, we as a community need to work on a lot better because we aren't feeling his presence. I can speak for myself, I don't know about others around. But there's things that my madrasa teachers have taught me and I have not really been doing, but such as little things that you can do at night. For example, just having a one-on-one conversation with your Imam. It doesn't have to be like you're always thinking through every action. Let me do this for my Imam. We're not always thinking when I'm buying a product on Amazon, Jeff Bezos is getting my money here. No, we're not thinking about the leaders behind our actions, right? So it can just be small things that you do every night or every once in a while that remember your Imam. You don't have to always feel his presence.
Well, that's a valid point, right? In our lives normally, whenever there's a leader behind something, whether it's a CEO or whatever, or even a center, we don't think about that top sort of down relationship. We don't connect like that. We know that we're supposed to connect with the 12th Imam, obviously, but sometimes, especially for the youth, even sometimes for elders. I mean, I'll even say for myself, I know that I'm supposed to with some idea in Islam, but am I actually doing it? Do I really feel like, okay, the imam every day in my life, that's something present or not? And I think it is very difficult, but like that one-on-one conversation idea I think is really important, especially if we do believe that he's listening, he's getting, the sort of all of our deeds. If I can maybe step forward and try to, be the first one to engage in the interaction, maybe then that relationship would become solidified. I think that's a nice piece of advice.
Yeah, I agree with what Zaman said. I will give a similar answer that perhaps that everything we should be doing should be for him. So let's say a person wants to become a doctor. Well, we know when the imam comes, he's going to need doctors. When he comes, he's going to need, let's say, even construction workers or lawyers. So I suppose we could say that everything we're doing should be for him, or some of it should be for him. As I mentioned, when he comes, he's going to need many things, and we can take that upon ourselves. We can become the doctors, the whatever. So yeah, I would agree with Zaman said.
So it's interesting. You talked about, Zaman, you're talking about, okay, at the end of the day, at least one way to help increase that daily thought about the imam and the daily connection is, at the very least, end of the day, make that connection one-on-one conversation. And then Matthew is like taking it to the next level that, okay, in every decision that you're making as well, short-term, long-term, especially things like career goals and things like that, we should be thinking about the imam as well. Like a lot of times when we think about, let's go with that, jobs. We think about, okay, what'll make me the most money? Where can I find the most success? What'll give me job security? It's economic stuff, financial stuff. How often do you actually hear people think, okay, which job, which career path, which schooling path should I pick that's actually going to be in the service of the imam at the time? It's very rare that actually you hear individuals like that. I do know some people who have strong relationships, especially those who I met in Iran, in Qom. So the ones who had very good and strong relationships with their local ulama, every single decision that they would make, they would go to their, Imam al-Jama'ah, the resident alim there. So they would say, look, in terms of picking my major in college, what should I do? Okay, this is how I'm doing right now. You would go and tell this guy every time, okay, I'm doing well or I'm not doing well. Should I change? Should I not change? Like he would always constantly be giving those updates and the information. And then when he was graduating, okay, so should I stick with this field or not? And because he in his mind, he's like, you know what? The resident alim or that guy, that sheikh, he's closer to the imam than me. He's closer to the mujtahideen and all that. They're closer to the imam than anybody else. If I can figure out what he is understanding from the imam at the time about what I should do with my life, then that'll give me more direction. It'll make it much, much easier. And I've heard people say that, you know what? I was growing up and everybody else was telling me doctor or engineer or whatever. He's like, but this person was saying, you know what? We don't have enough artists or poets or people in media that are actually doing the work of the imam. So because of that, even though my passion was one thing, I switched to something else because that was what the imam needed. He's like, and I found a lot of purpose in my life through that, inshallah. So it was really beneficial.
Say, how do you think that an artist or a poet, if someone wanted to go into that field, how do you think they would use that skill set to be able to help the imam?
Thanks. An artist or a poet, how would they use that? So I think there's simple ways. Right now, we're going to have a nasheed tonight, right? Typically, when we have poetry in our centers, we know it's normally going to be in Urdu, right? That's usually what happens right now. And that's fine. A lot of us connect to Urdu. I prefer normally Urdu poetry over other types of poetry, or Farsi, or even Arabic, right? But the question is, sometimes people say, okay, we always have to find reciters, or I hear this from my parents, our kids are not doing azadari the way that we want, or they don't have that same love and connection to the imam that we have. Well, of course, you're trying to connect them to a language that they have no connection to. What do you expect? Now, there is now this resurgence where you find people of all different ages who are born and raised in the West who are trying to write their own poetry in English. Right now you have all these various poets, I think more so in the UK, over here. It hasn't really taken off over here yet. There are a few, but not too many. But in the UK now, they're writing their own stuff from scratch, and they're taking the same sort of melodies from Arabic or Urdu or Farsi poetry, and they're adapting it to English. I think that's a nice step, but even there we could go forward. In other indigenous communities, what I've seen, in like native communities, in the African communities, I've seen even the poetry in the Haitian and other communities. They are completely writing everything from scratch, and they're doing it in the, as we say, Dhul, right? The melody of their local culture. And their people connect with it much, much more. Because, they'll say, when we listen to your stuff, it sounds like you guys are at a concert. Like, this stuff sounds really strange to us. And I can't blame them, right? A lot of us, if you hear Farsi nohe or sometimes Arabic nohe, like, this sounds like a song. It sounds weird. Well, when they hear our stuff too, they're like, your stuff sounds like a song too. Every culture is different. So when people from other cultures start to write it in whatever culture makes sense to them, like, look, this dhun, this melody, this key, these chords, this is what makes us feel sad, and this is what connects us to the imam. Okay, so let them do that. Maybe for us, it would be a little different as well. I'm not saying we write something to the tune of like hallelujah or something like that, right? Or
It's been done already.
maybe. But we have people in the community that I think if they have that passion, assuming they have a good voice, they have a knack for poetry, you can go to college or you can start taking like creative writing or literature, media, journalism, all that, because there's a whole science on how people's psychology is attracted by these things. Now, there is going to be a culture clash, definitely. Now, how we handle that culture clash, well, that, somebody else will kind of have to figure that out. It is going to be a little difficult to navigate, but I think if you do have that passion built into you, because if you'll notice, usually the way Allah works is that the skill sets and the passion that you have, somewhere deep down, are definitely there because they can be used in the service of the imam. Normally, God will not put something in us that is useless to the imam. But sometimes we get pushed by other variables and sometimes things get kind of switched along the way. So it's like a mix of different things. We have to figure out, okay, what do I like? Also, what am I good at? What do my parents think or my family think? What do they think I'm good at? What does the community, my friends, what do they think I'm good at? And then finally figuring out, okay, who's connected to the imam at the time? Right now, in our community, in our society, what do we really need? And then using all those variables and ideas together, we can probably figure out how to connect with the imam at the time, at that point, and what we should be doing with our life. And I think maybe we have maybe 1 or 2 minutes. Do you guys have any other last comments or suggestions or anything? Yes? Youth or any league? Okay. What is your definition of leadership? If anybody wants to chime in. What do you think about leadership today? Like practical leadership. Or if we're talking about leaders, another thing you can add in is, we have many leaders in the community right now. What are some things that you expect from a leader? And then also at the same time, in order to bridge the gap between general people and leadership, what can the average person who's trying to follow, what should they do as well?
Leader is a good example.
Leader's a good example, right? But what does it mean to be a good example?
That they live the values they want everyone else to live. That they are following those values, showing those values.
Okay, so the leader, let's just say we're talking about an Islamic leader, so they should be acting and living and manifesting Islamic values. Now what happens if the followers don't like those values too much? And they're saying, no, you need to be doing this. Well, that leader's trying to do the Islamic thing. Please pay attention to what the answer is going to be. There's a reason I'm saying that.
That they need to implement what they're saying. You see that Prophet Muhammad got a lot of backlash when he was spreading his message. And through his actions, people began to follow him because they saw that what he was doing was for the good of the people, right?
Interesting.
And for that reason, he was a good leader, but people began to follow him. And I think if more leaders, especially in youth, begin to act what they say, practice what they preach, then they'll be a good leader for the community.
I think that's an awesome answer. Thank you. So sometimes that, what happens is a person in a leadership role, they have all these different variables to consider, right? One is obviously there has to be some level where they're not just coming in and changing everything all of a sudden, right? But okay, we'll slowly amalgamate and get people used to what they believe the ideals should be, right? For whatever role that they have. At the same time, there may be some places where, this is not going to work out. We have to stick to our guns, but whatever. Stick to your ideals, stick to your principles, and do that. So I think going back to the example you gave, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, right in the beginning says, look, everybody else is tired of war, but he said, look, Muawiyah does not deserve that position. He is a false leader. I need to fight against that, and he does. And even after he's losing support over and over again from Muslims, even his own companions are just, at the end of his life, they're trying to assassinate him. They're trying to get rid of him. Still, he's trying to stick to that. Finally, when he sees that, this is just not working out, he has no other choice but to, end up signing that treaty. We see, done, right? So it's, I think, tough, and I think it's something for all of us to think about, right? For a leader to figure out how to balance what the ideals are, how to implement them, and get other people to say that, look, these are actually ideals that we need to make the change for. And then for everybody else who's looking up towards these leaders, okay, what things do I actually recognize for that leader? What are the actual values and goals that I want in mind? If I am assuming that leaders should live those values, are we on that same page or not? If we're not on the same page, shouldn't I sit down, have a conversation, a dialogue? What more can I do to kind of step up? So I think to bridge that gap, both leaders need to kind of step down a little bit to see what the general community needs. And the general community needs to step up a little bit as well and figure out, okay, how do we bridge that gap? What can we do, right? So I think both groups need to learn how to practice what they preach and to figure out, okay, all that stuff we're preaching, is that really our value system or not? And if it is, then we need to figure out how to actually practice it. So thank you both for your comments, and thank you both Zaman and Mahdi. I think it was an interesting session. Hopefully we can do this again sometime in the future.
Inshallah.
And I think it was different, especially because we're doing it in this hall. And usually when I'm in this hall with men, I can usually hear my own voice. So far I haven't been able to do that. So what can I say? Thank you so much again to the organizers, to HIC, to all the volunteers who helped put this event together. And inshallah, I think this will be a fun and successful night, and we can do more things like this. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Thank you, Sayyid Hassan, Zaman, and Mahdi for the really interesting discussion. It really helped me relate as a youth myself.
I completely agree. I hope you can do more talk shows like this in the near future, inshallah. We are now going to move on with the next event. The workshop children ages 7 to 12 will be challenged to answer trivia questions while performing physical activities.
The reason behind this planned game show is because our 12th Imam, Imam Mahdi, needs physical and intellectual abilities in his army, while also needing both by multitasking. The aim of workshop is to get our children and inshallah the next generation to one day be a part of 313. If I can now call up the game show host and the participants onto the stage. Salawat.
Alaikum. Can you guys hear me? Okay, awesome. So now we have a special game. The way this game works is one of the criteria of the 313 is intelligence and physical awareness. So we thought, let's put our youths, and I call these girls youths, to test. So they have been memorizing or learning a lot of information this past week. So we'll challenge their brains by asking the questions. While we're asking the questions, what we will do is we will ask them to stack and unstack cups. So you guys will be looking at, are they stacking correctly or are they stacking incorrectly? Yeah, I'm getting grammar messed up. So they will have 4 at the bottom row, 3, 2, 1, then they unstack, then 4, 3, 2, 1, unstack. While they're doing that, yeah, I will be asking them questions one by one. So do you think our girls can do it? Yes, let's give them a really big salawat. So, inshallah, these girls will be in 313. Yeah, we have 50 girls, 50 women in 313. So, inshallah. Okay, guys are ready? Yeah? Okay, I would suggest take your hands. At the count of 3, you will be picking up the cups. When you hear your name, that's when I'm going to ask you the question. So, I will say, Zainab Zahra, your question is. Sabiha, your question is. And I might just say, Sukaina Jr., your question is. Okay? So, be ready for that. So, 3. I love the silence. 2. And 1. Ready? Pick it up. Your first question is, and I will start with Siptian Jr., that's Sakina Yusuf Ali. What was the first occasion where the Holy Prophet nominated Imam Ali as his successor?
Da'watul Ashira.
Louder.
Da'watul Ashira.
Good job. Question number 2. This question goes to Sakina Daudali. You can stack it down. The question is, what are the names of the 2 mountains that Bibi Hajra went back and forth?
Safa and Marwa.
Good job. Now we're going to go faster. Sabiha, your question is, this surah talks about the revelation of the Holy Quran on the night of power. What is the surah?
Surah Qadr.
Oh, very good. Sukina Hirji Jr., this is your question, and this is Zainab Zahra. Whose granddaughters are Bibi Zainab and Bibi Kulthum?
Prophet Muhammad.
Prophet Muhammad, very good. Sakina Yusuf Ali, your question is, where is Masjid al-Aqsa located?
Jerusalem.
What is it? Jerusalem, very good. Sakina Daudali, your question is, what is Ankabut in the Quran?
Spider.
Spider. Sabiha, your question is, which surah does this is a hard one. Which surah does not begin with Bismillah?
Surah Tawbah.
MashaAllah, that's really good. Zainab Zahra, what J is the name of a surah which is named after a day? Surah Jummah. They are full on. And I think we have more questions. Should I ask them one more round? You guys are ready for this? They've been doing really well. Okay, let's go. Let's do this. Sakina Yusuf Ali, which city is known as the city of the Prophet?
Medina.
Medina. Sakina Daudali, when did the Holy Prophet announce, whomsoever master I am, Ali is his master?
Ghadeer.
Ghadeer. What happened in Ghadeer, Sabiha? What was this was his last?
Hajj.
This was his last Hajj. Wow. Zainab Zahra, where do the people performing Hajj pick up the pebbles?
Muzdalifah.
This is when we really remembered Muzammil, trust me. We're trying to memorize that. And we still have more questions, but I think we're done. The girls went a lot faster than I thought. Give them a really big salawat. And now we have these youths, but we now have youth juniors. So girls, you want to come down? Good job. For youth juniors, we have Rayan Jan Muhammad, Abbas Yusuf Ali, Hawra Fatima, and Zainab Zahra. Yeah, so come on, boys and girls. Okay, come on. So they will not be stacking up cups. What they will be doing is throwing a ball around, which I think is harder. I think for the girls, the stacking up cups was pretty easy. They were too good with that. So you guys are ready for throwing the ball around? So Rayan and Abbas, I want you to stand here, and Abbas on this side. Okay, girls, you guys can stay on the stage. Right? Yeah, girls get the stage, right? Always good. And boys, you can stand right here. There you go. And here. So this is the rule of the game. The rule is, the first rule is everybody's going to listen to you. So you know what? Let's look at everybody. So then they all listen to you. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's look at everybody. Look, they were listening to you. Thank you. Now we start. The rule is they will be throwing the ball to their pairs. So Rayan will be throwing it to Abbas and back. And same thing here. And as they're throwing it, I will be asking them the questions. Now keep in mind, these kids have been studying for the whole week. So I was really impressed with the girls. I have a feeling I'll be really impressed with these kids too. So you guys are ready? At the count of 3, you throw the ball so your partner can catch it. So don't throw so much, or then you'll hit the seniors at the back. Okay? Yeah? Okay. Ready? 1, 2, and 3. Throw. Question number 1, which goes to Dawdali Jr. Which is the shortest surah in the Quran? Surah Al-Kawthar. Very good. Second question goes to Hawra Fatima. Which book did Allah send to the Muslims?
Holy Quran.
Holy Quran. Good job. The third question goes to Abbas. Abbas, what day is dedicated to the 12th Imam?
Friday.
Friday. Very good. Rayan, your next question is, whose thirst do we remember when we drink water?
Imam Hussein.
MashaAllah. Dawdali Jr., what was the special gift Prophet Muhammad gave to Bibi Fatima?
A tasbih.
Okay, they're going fast. Hawra Fatima, name one wajib salah you recite every day, or your mommy recites every day. I'll give you a hint. It's any of this. Zohar, Asr, Maghrib, Isha.
Zohar, Asr.
Zohar, Asr. Okay, that's good. And then, Abbas, your question is, which Imam is Amir al-Mu'mineen?
Imam Ali.
Imam Ali. Very good, Rayan. Which animal is called fil in the Quran?
Elephant.
Elephant. MashaAllah. Am I going too fast with the questions? Do you think this is hard for them? Do you think I should go faster? Go faster? Perveen is saying yes, go faster. Yeah. Perveen, no, it's all on you, Perveen. Zainab, there you go. Zainab, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein are?
Brothers.
They're brothers. Hawra Fatima, which city will you see the Holy Kaaba in? Which city? It starts with an M.
Makkah.
Good job. Okay, Abbas, Yusuf Ali, when we pray, we face the Qibla. What is the Qibla called?
Kaaba.
Oh, that was easy. Who is our last prophet, Rayan?
Prophet Muhammad.
Wow, name our first prophet. Dawdali?
Prophet Adam.
Prophet Adam. Wow, okay. Now, Hawra Fatima, what should you recite before you begin anything?
Bismillah.
Good job. Okay, Abbas, this is a hard one. Let's see if everybody can remember this one. Who was born in the Kaaba?
Imam Ali.
Imam Ali, mashallah. Should I continue? They're doing really well. I'll do one more for Rayan. Rayan, how many imams do we have?
12.
Can I test Rayan a bit more? Rayan, what's the special water that's in Makkah when we go?
Zamzam water.
Zamzam. He did it. And with that,
Final question, who discovered Zamzam?
Bibi Hijra.
Bibi Hajj.
And Prophet Ismail.
Wow, Salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Tasneem, he's made the Janomads proud. Yeah. So with that, I think they deserve another big salawat as they walk off. So Allah.
MashaAllah, I am so impressed with all the abilities these children had. Thank you for participating, and inshallah, may we all be able to serve the Imam of our time. I would now like to invite the play actors up front to continue on with tonight's historic reenactment. Salawat.
month of the 10 the Prophet announced that he was going to Mecca to perform his last pilgrimage. This is known in Islamic history as the farewell Hajj. As he prepared for the journey from Medina to Mecca, thousands of Muslims from all over Arabia joined him, many of them waiting outside Medina to join him. This journey to Mecca gave the Prophet an opportunity to demonstrate the correct manner of performing the rituals of Hajj and do away with any practices that were in place during the age of ignorance. Upon completion of the spiritual journey of Hajj, the Holy Prophet started his journey back to Medina. On the way, when he reached a place called Ghadir Kum, which translates as the Pond of Kum, Angel Jibra'il descended with the revelation from Allah, which reads,
O Messenger, communicate that which has been sent down to you from your Lord. And if you do not, you will not have conveyed his message. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shall protect you from the people. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not guide the covers of the truth.
जिसका मौला हूँ मैं उसके मौला अली जब नबी ने कहा दीन कामिल हुआ जिसका मौला हूँ मैं उसके मौला अली जब नबी ने कहा दीन कामिल हुआ मरहबा मुस्तफ़ा रब्बी राज़ी हुआ अब जो आना थी आयत वहीं आ गई.
Upon receiving the verse, the Prophet stopped on that place of the pond of Qum, which was extremely hot. Then he sent for all people who have been ahead in the way to come back and waited until all pilgrims who fell behind arrived and gathered. He ordered Salman to use rocks and camel tooling to make a pulpit, so he could make his announcement. It was around noontime in the first of the fall, and due to the extreme heat in that valley, people were wrapping their robes around their feet and legs, and were sitting around the pulpit on the hot rocks. According to some narrators, approximately 120,000 Muslims were gathered at this pond at noon under the scorching hot sun. The Prophet went on to give a sermon where he glorified Allah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. All praise be to Allah, the Lord of the universe. I advise you to be cautious of your duties toward Allah, in order to ensure you will never be left alone and give you hope to continue in the path of Islam. Shall I give you to that which if you adhere to, you will never fall astray after my passing? It seems the time approach when I shall be called away by Allah, and I shall answer that call. I'm leaving for you two precious things, and if you hold on to them both, you will never go astray from me. They are the book of Allah, the Quran, and my progeny, which is my Ahlul Bayt. The two shall never separate from each other until they come to me by the pool of Kauthar. This is known as Hadith Thaqalain, the two weighty important things. For whom I am his leader, Ali is his leader. O God, love those who love him, and be hostile to those who are hostile to him.
जिसका मौला हूँ मैं उसके मौला अली जिसका मौला हूँ मैं उसके मौला अली उसके मौला अली जिसका मौला हूँ मैं जो अली का नहीं वो हमारा नहीं. جو علی کا نہیں وہ ہمارا نہیں. جس کا مولا ہوں میں اس کے مولا علی.
Immediately after he made this announcement, ayah number 3 from Surah Al-Ma'idah was revealed, which reads,
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. Today I have perfected your religion for you and have completed my blessing upon you and chosen Islam as deen for you.
The Prophet then asked everyone to pay allegiance to Imam Ali. Everyone obeyed and said as told by the Prophet. The day of Ghadir is one of the most important events in Islamic history, and on this day of 18th Dhul Hijjah, the Shias of Ali all over the world celebrate in grandeur.
غدیر کم میں یہ فرما رہے تھے پیغمبر. غدیر کم میں فرما رہے تھے پیغمبر. بس اب یہاں سے بھرو یا علی مدد کہہ کر. بس اب یہاں سے بڑھو یا علی مدد کہہ کر. تمہیں کسی کے سہارے کی کیا ضرورت ہے. تمہیں کسی کے سہارے کی کیا ضرورت ہے. خود اپنے ساتھ رہو یا علی مدد کہہ کر. نعرہ حیدری.
What an amazing performance. I would like to thank all the actors by calling them onto the stage. Mahdi Manekia for representing Prophet Muhammad, Hadi Manekia as Imam Ali, and the girls Sakina Yusuf Ali as the voice of the angel and Sakina Daud Ali as the Quranic verse. Salawat.
Next, we will be moving on to the Qasidas, which will be recited by Uncle Imran Virani. Let's welcome him onto the podium with the Salawat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
أفضل الصلاة محمد وآل محمد. خدا محمد عیسیٰ موسیٰ ابراہیم اور اسماعیل نور و خضر یعقوب و یوسف سب نے پکارا علی 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 علی. میری زبان پہ پہل ہے خدا 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 کے بعد میرے لب ہے ثنا مصطفیٰ نبی محترم کے بعد مد ہے شیر کبریا خدا ذوالجلال سے ملی ہے جن کو برتری علی 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 خدا کا وہ سفیر ہے رسول کا وزیر ہے وہ اولیاء کا پیر ہے وہ سب کا دستگیر ہے دعائے جبرائیل ہے وہ جوشن کبیر ہے وہ سب کا غم گسار ہے ہو شافعی کے انبلی علی 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 دلوں میں ہے نظر میں ہے شبوں میں ہے سحر میں ہے ادب کی منزلوں میں ہے قیام میں سفر میں ہے فضا میں ہے گھٹا میں ہے نجوم میں کمر میں ہے اسی سے دن کو روشنی اسی سے شب کو چاندنی علی 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 خدا کے ساتھ ساتھ ہے نبی کے ساتھ ساتھ ہے علی کا رخ جدھر ہو حق علی کے ساتھ ساتھ ہے علی کا فیض بے کراں سبھی کے ساتھ ساتھ ہے یہی صدائے کمبری ترانے کلندری علی 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 قدم قدم نفس نفس شہر شہر گلی گلی اسی کے دم قدم سے ہے زمانے بھر میں روشنی نہیں ہے جس کی جوتیوں سے بر کے تاج کیسری رجز یہ پرتا جا رہا ہے کاروان حیدری علی 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 وہ حق کی آبرو بھی ہے، وہ کفر کی ہٹک بھی ہے، وہ تیگ کی چمک بھی ہے، وہ دین کی کمک بھی ہے، یقین کا فلک بھی ہے، نصیریوں کا شک بھی ہے، اسی کے واسطے خدا اسی کا ہے مہاولی، علی 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 میں خوش عطر علی، صدف علی غور علی، رسول کی سپر علی، ظفر کا ہے زبر علی، یہاں علی وہاں علی، ادھر علی ادھر علی، اسی کا نام آ گیا، فتح کی بات جب چلی، علی 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 علی، چلو چلو غدیر میں جہاں ہے جشن ایک بپا، اتر کے آ گئے جہاں فلک سے سارے انبیاء، علی بنائے جا رہے ہیں جانشین مصطفیٰ، زمین پہ کیا فلک میں بھی ہے آج جشن حیدری، علی 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 علی، افضل الصلاة محمد وآل محمد، أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات، سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
Thank you so much, Imran Uncle, for the amazing recitation. It really lit up and brightened this event and the environment around us with the love of the Ahlul Bayt.
Before we end off tonight's program, we would like to give a big thank you to Sayed and his team for hosting the youth talk show, Brother Hussein Laddu for the youth event coordination, Sister Zainab Herji and Ashrafanti for the decor, Sister Ruha for the games and questions, and to all the participants who took part in tonight's program. It wouldn't have been possible without all of you. We would also like to express our thankfulness to Uncle Mustafa Shivji for always supporting the youth and being involved in these events.
More importantly, we can't forget to give a special thanks to Sister Shazia Yusuf Ali and Sister Zahra Dawdali for being the main inspiration and force behind this event.
We would also like to show our sincere gratitude to all the organizers for giving us the opportunity to be the MCs of this program. We pray that we kept the Shia legacy alive and made the Ahlul Bayt proud.
And we hope we didn't sound too boring, especially my sister. Now we would like to call up Brother Hussein Jaffer to make an announcement and end off tonight's program with ziyarat. Brother Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As we share the joy of Eid-ul-Ghadeer and Eid-ul-Adha, may abundant blessings be sent to you and your families. Brother Mahmoud announced during his Eid address earlier this week that we are pleased to have Sister Zahra Daudali and Sister Aliya Tijani Kaki, two dedicated co-principals, lead HIC Academy Madrasa this upcoming academic year. Both individuals bring to their roles a and are devoted to serving our Imam by making each child's learning experience at Madrasa memorable and growth. Alhamdulillah, the Madrasa is pleased to announce for next year. Sunday, Madrasa classes will be held at the newly built Galileo Skyway campus located at 3755 Skyway Drive in Sanford. This location is only minutes away from HIC, Alhamdulillah. To assist in the logistical planning for teachers and administrators, a humble request to parents to please register their children as soon as possible. The early discounted registration ends on Saturday, July 3rd. After this date, the final registration deadline being August 15th. Further information related to registration can be found on the HIC weekly newsletter. There are also registration flyers on both the gents and the ladies' halls. And also, if there are any additional questions, they can be sent to contact@iecacademy.org. Our community is growing, alhamdulillah, and we need the support of the community members to continue to excel, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan. But now I'd like to request all to stand up as we pay respect to our Holy Prophet and his beloved family. Assalamu alaykum ya Rasulullah, Assalamu alaykum ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, Assalamu alaykum ya Fatimat al-Zahra, Sayyidati Nisa'il Alameen, Assalamu alaykum ya Hasan al-Mujtaba, Assalamu alaykum ya Hussein al-Shaheed Karbala, Assalamu alaykum ya Ali ibn al-Hussein wa Muhammad ibn Ali wa Ja'far ibn Muhammad وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والخلف الحجة القائم المهدي حججك على عبادك ومنائك في بلادك صلاة كثيرة دائمة. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا قعبة الإيمان، السلام عليك يا مامن الإنس والجان، عجل الله فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وظهورك ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.